Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We are excited to have Melo Miles with us today. Thank you, Melo, for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Let's introduce you to our listeners. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. Melo Miles. Heist Miles, if anybody knows me personally, or just Melo. Grew up in Kansas City, Missouri my whole life. I guess what you would call, a local KC rap artist. Where I grew up, all over Kansas City, whatever specific about that is, just all over Kansas City. Yeah, that's basically it.
What high school did you go to?
Chill dude. I was in Raytown a lot too. So yeah, I went to Raytown High from like middle school until high school. That's where I graduated at.
Okay. Did you have an interest in music, sports, arts? Where were your interests like when you were middle school, high school?
Mainly football and mainly football. It was just basically that. When I was in middle school, the only thing I really did was kind of do football, do weightlifting, watch Dragon Ball Z again, and that was it. No, I didn't really have an interest in music at that point. Probably didn't have interest in music until like I graduated high school, because I first started having an interest in music kind of when I stopped like watching shit like wrestling. I started kind of just watching other stuff. First thing that came on was Hot 103. Not Hot 103, my fault. What is it? 106 and Park, my fault. 106 and Park, and it was a new joint of the day. It was E40 Sprinkle Me, if anybody knows that joint. And I just thought it was super cool to see E40, performing on there like that. I just, I never seen anything like that before, especially from a big dude. I thought it was super cool. And from that point, I just dove deeper into music. Anywhere I can get music, like my brother listen to music, I listen to all his music. My mother listen to music, all her music. My everybody just wherever I can get it, I listen to it. Mm-hmm. So around the time when I started to graduate high school, that's when I started dabbling into myself. When I met a couple of friends of mine when we was playing basketball, and I figured out they rap too. Figured out some people rapped at my job, and I was like, damn, am I the only person that doesn't, know how to do this? And I gave it a try. Turned out I was pretty good at it. So it's, kept with it, became more of a passion thing for me, and still is.
Yes, excellent. What were you listening to in your middle school, high school years?
Crazy shit. So, middle school, it wasn't really middle school. If it was middle school, it pretty much would be anything that was on TV. So just listening to 106 and Park all the time, I would, get introduced to the artists that everybody knows. So it would be E40, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Tupac, Biggie, those type of artists that everybody are, Jay-Z, those would be artists I listen to all the time. And then it would be, I would get a taste later on of like artists that my older brother would listen to, Rich the Factor, Fat Tone, Hustler, who else? A lot of Bay Area artists, Messy Marv, a lot of those type of artists. And then I was stumbled upon, I don't think this was his music, but I was stumbled upon different variation artists that I really, really dug. So I stumbled upon Tech Nine. I stumbled upon Shadow, Lil Robin, Mr. Shadow. I stumbled upon Twista, Do or Die. And I came infatuated with the chopping style of rap, but it was never really like my style. It was just something that like I was super infatuated with, like them rapping like that. So I wanted to rap. I just wanted to know their lyrics. I didn't want to do it myself, but I came infatuated with that. So
yeah, awesome. So out of high school, you realized you had a knack for or love for rap. Were you writing your own stuff? How soon did you start writing your own stuff?
So when I was in high school, like probably my senior year too, it would be I would write some stuff and I would rap. I really didn't write, actually. I just kind of just kept it to myself, and I would like rap it over the song because I didn't know how. I don't know how to get beats or rap over it. I don't know any of that yet. So I would like write some stuff or just write some stuff in my head, and then I would spit it to somebody at school. And they were like, oh, that was so dope. And I'm like, yeah, T-Pain said that, you know? Because I wouldn't want to take the credit for myself. So I would say anybody else said it, you know what I'm saying, to see if they liked it or not. Because I didn't want them to be like, yeah, that was super whack. You wrote that? You are fucking terrible. You know, so I just like say anybody else wrote it.
Rejection thing.
Yeah, so then after that, when I graduated high school, I met my friend Keenan at the basketball court. And before that, you know, I again saw some people in my job rapping. So I didn't really start rapping, but I was like kind of writing poetry and stuff like that. And when I saw that he could rap, I was sharing him some of my stuff. And then I introduced him to my other friend, Royce. I was like, man, y'all should work together. And he was like, no, we should work together. Like, you dope at this too. And I was like, you know, all right, cool. And then we, you know, for like my entire college time, that's all I did in college. I barely went to class. I barely did anything. It was like I would go to class and I would go to his house. We play 2K. We rap over beats. We, you know, rap to each other, and we try to just, you know, figure this thing out. So,
where were you going to college?
I went to college at just Longview Community College.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you dove head. You just went in full blast. Did you start buying gear? Did you start like what took you down the? I was broke. So Keenan showed me how to like basically just rip instrumentals offline and gave me sites to where I could find instrumentals that were free. And then my friend Royce, he knew how to do the engineering stuff, so we would go over to his house after we get done writing for forever. And then, you know, since he had released music before officially, I was like, yo, show me how you do this. He's like, I do this all myself. I make my beats, I rap myself, I record myself. I was like, man, show me how to do it. And we went to his house, and it was the attic of his house where he lived. And, you know, he showed me where the mic was hung up in there. And like in hindsight, of course, now, because, you know, we were older, we got to invest more in craft everything. It's like, that's crazy that we started like we started, but honestly, at that time, it was like the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. So he just had a microphone hanging from the ceiling, and even he was like, you know, trying to be like he was embarrassed about it, but like, you couldn't embarrass. I was like blown away by that he could do it himself. So it wasn't nothing embarrassing about me, but it was a mic hanging from his ceiling. He had a sock over it, like for this particular part, like the muffler. That's all he had for it, and he had his laptop, and we just recorded our first couple ones in his attic. And it was so dope to me. I was like, we should go to a real studio. Let's put our money together. And we started doing that. We started putting a little bit of money together, going to real studios, getting introduced to like, it just got more and more official as we went along and trying to figure this thing out, you know, because, you know, it's no like somebody to show you it for real, but we just figured it out. Yeah. So how early were you recording stuff and sharing it? Like getting it out there. When were you?
I think I put out my first mixtape. That shows how long ago it is. It was a mixtape because people don't do mixtapes anymore. Right. But I put out my first mixtape probably in 2016. Okay. That was my first mixtape.
Okay. 2016.
I think so.
Okay.
It was just Melo Music 1, my first mixtape, and I think it was on Dat Piff in 2016.
All right. What are some of the studios you've worked in around town? Man,
so aside from just millions of people's just house, I've worked at Chapman before, Studio B before. Label was a studio we started. What other ones? Then I think we found our home with my homie Max's studio, but he started, and that's mainly where we recorded.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I had interviewed Alex Sardiano, who was an engineer at Chapman Studio.
Yeah.
Worked with a lot of guys there, and that was kind of fun.
I think every time I went there, I worked with Matt Peters.
Okay.
And that's my guy. He works at Strange Music as an engineer. Yeah. But yeah, I think every time I recorded, I became really good friends with him because he also used to record in another house studio that somebody else owned. And just after I heard him, because he was also an artist too, he was in his band Sage and Sour. I was a huge fan of them, and we just kind of, we just became friends after that. But he mainly recorded us before Matt.
Awesome. Yeah. So, for those listening, if you go on Spotify or iTunes, you're gonna and look up Melo Miles.
Yep. Melo Miles, Spotify, anywhere you listen to music, Spotify, Amazon,
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And you can find it anywhere. YouTube. And you can find it probably from the beginning to the end. If you can find some on Reverb Nation if you dig deep enough. So pretty much always been everywhere. I could figure out where to put it.
Right. And one of your EPs that I listened to was called Soapbox Sermon. And titles, this really caught my attention, right? Because of my background and everything. Right. You had Through the Valley, so it's obviously it's a reference to Psalm 23, Through the Valley of the Shadow of Death thing. You had a song called Preach, Soapbox Sermon, Substance Abuse. I thought I can relate to all of that.
I hope so, because it was all more of me and my friend, one of my best friends, Craig Smith, had to talk about how I was approaching this project and kind of the theme behind it. He has let's just say mixed or complicated history with the church too. And I was asking him like, yo, is this all sacrilegious what I'm doing? And this is the funniest answer. He was like, yes. I was like, okay. Like I wasn't trying to be, but it was just more kind of a metaphor to try to relate it to me. Yes, it has those implications of what they are from, for sure. But if I'm not either, if I'm more spiritual than Christian or whatever, because I'm not Christian or whatever, I'm not using these phrases to be sacrilegious in a sense. I'm just trying to refer to it how I am. So each title and song has its own deeper meaning that may even be only known to me. But that's the way I was trying to portray it when I put it out.
Yeah. Well, you take a metaphor that has one context and then spin it into another context.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of stuff.
I appreciate that.
Creative. If you don't mind, talk about your spiritual background, your journey. Did you grow up in a church?
No, not at all. There's certain members of my mom's side of the family that are really religious, and then my pops was Muslim, and we were sort of raised Muslim, but not really. So, and then kind of as I got older, the best way to describe it is I don't know if he got bored with it or he just kind of stopped. So we just kind of started doing whatever.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole family, my mom she used to, wear hijab and everything, but as I got older, all of that just kind of stopped. I think it stopped when they weren't, really together.
Was your dad influenced by Malcolm X, that whole movement of
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was his influence. So it's more the Nation of Islam and the teachers of that, but I think he still identifies himself as Muslim. Not necessarily the Nation of Islam, but follow closely with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachers. So that is not something I dove into. I dove into the actual Quran. But, just as I get older and older, it's more, I guess it is more just a spiritual kind of thing that I would more connect to. I feel at the end of the day, whoever you're praying to is probably still the same one that I'm praying to, regardless of the name. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your spirituality today? Just is prayer a part of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Prayer. I believe in God. I think it's more of a personal relationship from person to person. I don't really necessarily believe in a lot of the show of organized religion. I believe in the personal relationship with God, between you and whatever you believe in, whether it's the universe, the energy, the Lord, and an elephant, whatever. Whatever you believe in is whatever you believe in, and it's all about your personal relationship with what you believe in.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anybody else. Anybody else.
So when you were working on Soapbox Sermon, what was going on in your life to bring out sort of mixing these metaphors into your journey? Like it seemed like there's a lot of, like sound like you're going through some pretty tough times. I couldn't tell.
I don't know if it was really tough at that point. It was more of a hunger. I feel like as I started rapping, I think is why, like, a lot of the production I chose, a lot of the song titles I chose, a lot of the sounds I chose for my projects were because I wanted it to I wanted people to kind of see where I was as far like be seen of this type of person who was like, even before I put out that EP, I had a song called Feel Good, which was my very first officially released single. And on that one, it's the same type of big feeling, and that more encapsulates and my time, my thinking, and my energy was just more just kind of positive. But not only positive, I wanted it to be motivation. I wanted it to be, whatever you're trying to do, you can do it, but you have to go at it with the type of tenacity and ferociousness, and just there's no other way, or else it won't happen. So when I got to my project, I feel like when I start choosing the tracks, like Through the Valley, I made it okay, relating to that passage of the Bible. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. And I feel like I'm a person who walks like that, where it's like, regardless of how daunting and unbelievable the odds may be, I don't ever try to walk through it with just even visible or even inside fear. I feel like it needs to be calm. It needs to be, I even have a song called Goliath too, but it needs to be that type of feeling, like that David versus Goliath. Like, however big this is, I will find a way to conquer. I will find a way to win. So that was my more making a statement of like, this is me. I'm here, and I'm here to do this because I'm phenomenally good at it, and everybody's gonna see that. Before I start delving deep into my personal story and everything else, I wanted to kind of just show that, like, yo, I am here to do this better than everyone else. Because I've practiced my ass off. I've absorbed this, and I don't care how daunting it is. I'm a win.
Yeah. You've got a couple of songs, substance abuse, drug, those kind of, is that something that, are those metaphors, or is that stuff you've wrestled with?
No. So substance abuse is kind of a carryover metaphor for the mixtape that I dropped right before my first single, which was called Sick Addiction. Sick Addiction kind of refers to my addiction to music, my addiction to trying to make something out of nothing type of thing with this music thing, because whatever people say about the definition of insanity, we all know it's just not banging your head against the wall and just expecting for different results. And I feel like you have to be insane to do to do something like what we do, and a lot of the creative fields, especially music. So when I came up with that, Sick Addiction title, it was more metaphors on that tape about making the metaphor between being addicted to music and literally needing that rush of almost, I guess the drug would be almost attention and instant gratification of everything, but it's an endless and constant chase of it. When people are driven by money, that's one thing, but when you're driven by, like, literally, some nights not sleeping, some nights not eating, flunking out of school, and spending my last money on beats, ruining relationships, just trying to do, like, nothing else in life matters other than this. Well, I feel like that's addiction. That's you, like, and that's literally how strongly I felt and still feel kind of to this day. Things have changed a little bit, growing, but when I made that metaphor, like substance abuse, it was a metaphor be more about the substance that I'm putting into that track. Yeah. Every time I did a substance abuse, that's technically number 2, and there's 3 of them so far, but it was more like a recollection of like what I've gone through so far in those substance abuse. So I think in that one that I put on the tape, it was more talking about, it was a lot of police shootings. It was a lot of turmoil between me and my friends. It was a lot of just feeling like, you want to give up everything type of feeling. And it was just me kind of like still having that same feeling of, I can never give this up though. Like I'm willing to not be friends with whoever no more. I'm willing to not be friends with people that I consider family. I'm willing not to have this relationship with a person I love so much, but there's one thing I will never ever quit is this, So I just feel like that's what that was about.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think anything can become addictive or absorb us to where we kind of lose focus on everything else. And, I tend to dive into most things like really wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I learned that I have that personality trait as well. Like usually when I find something I'm interested in,
full blast.
I'm 1000% interested in until I've exhausted that interest. And that's how music was for me. I've just never not. It's only within the last 3 years of like me starting my business, me having a kid, me trying to figure out something, a life outside of just music. It's the only thing that really changed that for real. Because before that, I would be probably I could be on the street and homeless, and still be doing music, and that would still just be all my passion. It wouldn't matter if there was a dime in my pocket, I would still find that way, because we always found a way. We lost everything before just chasing this, and all we did was just grab everything that we had and still try to create. That's all we did. So
yeah. So when did you do your first did you start performing around town here in Kansas City? Where you just
I did, yeah.
Did you start doing clubs or where? What? Tell me a little bit about some of your live performance stuff.
So the first person who met me his name was Stephen Cooper, and we recorded in his house. And when I finished up my first single, he helped me kind of release that through him, and he put me on his show that he had at the Czar Bar, and which is no longer around. There's no clubs around here no more. But at the Czar Bar, where he gave me like an hour-long set, which is for somebody who's never done live performance before, is really stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking nuts. You don't know what you're doing, But I did fantastic at it. And from there, there was another bar owner named Tim who owned the Riot Room, and at the time, I think his Loogie was related to him in some type of way. They were inviting me to do more shows there. So I started to do more shows there, which opened up for my friends that I rap with to do more shows there. And then we found other bars and we do more shows there. So we did open mics at, soul sessions. We did anything that we could find to try to increase, our buzz around the city, that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. You just did a show recently at Rhino, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Birthday boy show with my boy Cuddy Bear.
And was that one of your first shows since COVID stuff? Or
that's one of my first shows since I released Soapbox Sermon. I have been very much hermited when it comes to releasing new music that I've created, because of just different things that have transpired in my life. So I've been really doing something that isn't really me, but it's become it's almost like traumatic. It's just second guessing everything. So I haven't really done many shows since I did my release show. So that's the first show I've done in since it's maybe 4 or 5 years.
And who was the guy you did it with?
Cuddy Bear.
Cuddy Bear. Okay.
It was a lot of other talented people on the show. Everybody's name is going to escape me, but I know it was. Her name is Naomi. I think it's Naomi.
How'd that feel getting out after 4 or 5 years?
It's always like that. It's like the rush one of the rushes I think I chase. When I'm on stage, I don't necessarily care who's there like that. I don't care who all showed up for it, which I think we did pretty decent at the show. It was definitely people there, but I'm so invested in what I created and sharing it. I'm more so invested in the interactions that come after that. Not necessarily the performance of the show, which good or bad, but it's not necessarily the performance of the show. It's more the connection to the art, which is like another thing that I'm actually trying to, figure out a balance with. You got to put on a good show. It's the entertainment industry. This isn't a poetry slam. This is a different type of thing. But at the same time, when I get done with a show, I like the connections where people are actually listening to what I had to say and then want to connect with me off that. That's just a personal thing.
Yeah, I watched a few clips from that show. There were a couple little posts on Instagram, I think, or something like that. Yeah, it was cool. It looked good. What about you've done a bunch of different singles with different people. One of them that caught my attention was Switch. with Oreo A.
Oreo A.
Sorry. See, I'm bad at names. He
ain't gonna never leave that shit.
Yeah.
Oreo A. Yeah. No, you had it right.
Oreo.
Yeah.
Oreo. All right. So, he's a local guy that you've done?
I've recorded everything with him since my mixtape Sick Addiction. I've recorded everything pretty much with him. So he's my unfortunate best friend. He's a bad influence. He's a headache. He's ridiculously talented. He's a great engineer. He's a shitty and decent person at the same time. It's crazy, but yeah. So Switch is something that we did right. I think it's right before a show that we had in St. Louis, opening up for Jordan Lucas, and we went down Art Alley, and it was just a really cool alley. And we was like, yeah, we just recorded. I think we recorded that song like a day before, and we was like, you know your verse. I know my verse. Let's do something.
Yeah,
here. And
it's a cool video. I like it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It didn't take that long to shoot. We wasn't trying to be super extra, just something to put out, and it seemed that people really dug it. It was dope. Cool.
So tell us about your videography, your photography, you're into you do a lot. What's the name of your company?
Viewpoint Visuals LLC.
What's your website for that?
It's actually under a rebranding phase right now. So the website was Viewpoint Visuals KC, and it'll probably be re-uploaded as Viewpoint Visuals KC unless we decide to change the branding of that as well. But it's Viewpoint Visuals KC. It's more of a content creation company. Anything that has to be done with creating content for either businesses, artists, brands, everything, we hopefully are trying to rebrand this to where we specialize at, because we've been doing it for so long. Even the videos that you referenced, like, we shout out those, everybody who either works with me, worked for me, or any type of capacity, we shout out those. So, and along with, I don't know if it definitely is hundreds of other videos, especially for artists around Kansas City at this point, and businesses around Kansas City at this point. So, that's something that we want to really show how we've grown since 2017, when I started it. And I want to show how we've grown with basically just trying to master telling everyone's story. Telling everyone's story in a way that they tell us in, and then we try to capture that and then put it out there so they can show the world it. Whether it be a business, a brand, an artist, anyone.
So if a business wants to do a promo video, kind of tell their story, is that the kind of...
Yeah, that's exactly that. We don't, doing a promo video is one thing, but getting to know that business and getting to know what they do, what they're about, why they do what they do, how they do what they do, what's their end goals of everything. We're not necessarily interested in just saying, oh yeah, we can do whatever you want. We want to know. We want to know everything about you that makes you and why you're doing what you're doing, because we want to help you identify that and then help you create something that is not only just gonna get the key phrase, is going to get you your ROI, is going to get you those sales, whether hard or soft sales or more clicks and everything. We want to actually see what can we create for you that's going to be timeless. What can we create for you that's going to be something that you're going to be proud to stamp with your business, as we're going to be proud to stamp of how much passion we put into your work. So that's something that I feel like we've mastered with doing so much work with creatives. We try to blend a great and unique balance of just corporate and creative. So that's where I hold a lot of stake in what I'm creating with my company now.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the projects that you're most proud of that you've done with your company over the last few years?
Let's see. I'm mostly proud of. I can't choose one, but I think a lot of things I've done with artists are just so unique and so capturing. I love when people just, tell me like, oh, that video was amazing. Oh, they're not even telling me, they're telling the artist, that video was amazing when y'all did this and that and this and that. And I'm like, that's so cool that they were able just to tell us this crazy idea, and we were able to capture it and put it out there to where people did connect to it. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, our most one of our most successful videos would be the Big Body video. You know, the merch right here. You know, y'all can see that right there, right there. The Big Body video with my homie, The Epitome, and my sister Amira Wang. It was just a project to where we went into it more passion filled, and we just kind of wanted to encapsulate this idea that they had, and every idea was crazy, and every idea was just not like it was just an idea, and we turned it into a good piece of art that everybody seems to really, really appreciate. So, you know,
so what it says, I haven't seen this. What is
Big Body?
Yeah.
Oh, see this this little thing right here is all about. It's a song by The Epitome and Amir Wang. It's a body positive and a very hype party song that they made.
Okay,
and it was just centered around. Basically just love yourself, doing your thing out there type of thing. Also, it was a lot of ass in it, so it was great. It was a really dope video. One of my favorite ones.
That's awesome. Now I have to see it.
Yeah, you got it on, man. Show the booty.
You got it up, Matt.
I'll find it.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. Awesome. Fun stuff. So tell us about what projects you're working on now. What's going on?
When it comes to video projects, working on a lot of more corporate stuff right now. We have finished another big video for Amir Wayne that should be coming out, I think, New Year's. And you know, that was pretty fun video. Other than that, more personally, I'm working on releasing a lot of other singles from me, just trying to get back into the rhythm that I once had with the music. So I got about 4 or 5 singles that I'll be releasing with a couple other visuals. Again, probably all shot by our company, you know. So that's what's, you know, gonna start off 2022 for me.
Okay. And then what about some of your solo stuff? What are you?
That is solo stuff.
That's all solo.
All that is solo.
Okay.
All that is solo stuff. More focusing on new songs, new sounds, new experiences I've been through since I've last released music.
Okay.
So hopefully it can connect with how I want it to connect, you know.
Okay. Who are some of the people that have had the most influence on you as far as, like, you know, either mentoring up close or from a distance, like people that that really feel like have been positive influences on you?
My son Craig Smith. Yeah. He's a big influence. He's another KC artist. I took him under my wing a long time ago. You know, he's older than me. He's done bigger things than me, but you know, I had to get him straight and, you know, make sure that he would come out into the world prepared. You know, so he's done a lot of great things. He's still doing great things. He's out in LA right now, doing a lot of things like his podcast, Superfly. He's also, I mean, it's impossible to count how many licenses and soundtracks and songs that he's had in your favorite TV shows, your favorite movies. Doesn't matter from high to low. If it's been a blockbuster, he's been in it in some capacity. When it comes to the music, he's amazing artist. He's been on big projects as far as like Tech Nine and everything. So taking a lot of.
Is he a Kansas City guy?
Yeah, he's from here as well.
Okay.
So he's Craig Smith. He's a really good dude. And he's always giving me a lot of good knowledge. Me and him just honestly are probably more alike than we both realize, and that we do realize that, you know, which is why we vibe so much when we create together, vibe so much when we talk, and when we, you know, just try to motivate each other to keep moving. And so he's one of them. And then also will be, of course, The Epitome. That's like, it's like a brother that's still here to me. The Epitome is like, you know, we met randomly at a show, and ever since then we just been creating everything together that everybody sees, you know, for as far as his brand and everything. He's just been a great influence and a great motivation to just keep kind of feeling and feeding this hunger that we all feel, you know.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good. What as you've journeyed through all of this, there's been a few times where you, like you mentioned when we did our bonus round, you talked about a book on mental health that you'd been reading. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things about mental health that have drawn you into even looking at a book like that or reading or?
I guess it's just experiences, when over the last, and a lot of these songs that I'll be putting out will be kind of reflecting all of this life that's just been happening, and when it comes down to it, that's all it really is. And I think that's one of the perspectives that keep me kind of just grounded in a newfound sanity after all of this. But it's just kind of getting better understanding of what's been going on in my head and how am I processing everything that happens to me, everything that happens to me, for me, anything, and how I process it and how I'm just dealing with it, And I feel like for the longest time after, let's see, it's been probably about 3 or 4 years. Since then I've been divorced. I've been, I guess it's more relatively homeless than actual, but it's I've been, and then I had a newborn baby, making bare minimum, company failing, relationships failing, whether it be business or professional, and just me just trying to figure out how to deal with all that. And it just feel like everything kind of crashing down at once and you just not being prepared enough to handle that, and then just the aftermath of how it leaves you and then how it left me. And I was just more interested, I guess, of how to deal with the lingering effects of all that, just I don't know if it's a PTSD thing or if it's just a high anxiety thing, but there would be times after the last couple of years I would be just hyperventilating and just freaking out and then just sobbing uncontrollably or having those thoughts of harming yourself or anything like that, just having those thoughts and just thinking it's a weird thing to not talk to people about that when that's such a dramatic shift in the type of person that I was.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't me ever. I've never experienced it ever. Mm-hmm. And the way I put it in the metaphor when I talk to people about it, it's like everybody's familiar with Michael Jackson, Joe Jackson, his dad, right? Mm-hmm. The mental state that I feel like I had to always want to be the best, I want to be better than be successful and do what I do. It's like having Joe Jackson as a daddy, but mentally all the time. Just whatever you do, you have to be the best, and whatever you're doing is not good enough, and you have to work harder. You always have to work harder. It doesn't matter that you're tired, it doesn't matter that you're exhausted, it doesn't matter that this is failing, it doesn't matter that that's failing. You have to work harder, you have to keep going because you are slacking always. And for, I guess, 20 some years of life, that's how I got through life. It's just always making sure that you were feeling, you got to work harder. And then when you beat that into yourself and things start to happen positive, you reward yourself with a slight pat on the back and then negative reinforcement just to make sure that you keep going. That's just me personally. I don't know if other people process it that way, but that's just how I process it. Mm-hmm. And then as it keeps going, and then it's like a great motivator to have that type of mind, but it's just not healthy nor sustainable. Mm-hmm. It's like old fables. I can refer to so many different things, but the main one that I even just learned just today, I think it mainly refers to is what is the fable I just watched today? The unhappy stonemaker. To where it's just seeing what you don't have and not appreciating what you do. And that's just how my mind state always is. And I feel like for a winner, that's what you need to have. To be successful, that's what you need to have. You cannot be content. But at the same time, when you are successful and you're not, you get to a certain point and you've done certain things and you don't take the time to appreciate that and give yourself some slack, all you do is just beat yourself down more and more. And when something unfortunate happens, just some things that happened to me in my life, it just felt like beating myself up on top of things falling apart, beating myself up on top of things falling apart. And then the more you try, they still fall apart. It just was damaging. It was just make you just not want to get out of bed. And you just feel ashamed and depressed and just, different emotions you never had to deal with before. And so me just, you find the things to hold on to and try to rebuild would be like my son and my music and my career and my business. I held on to those things because probably if I didn't have, I came to a point where I was like, if it wasn't for me having a son, I'd have checked out. 100% I would have checked out, because I would wake up in the morning and just feel like there is literally no reason to get out of bed. There's absolutely nothing that is working for me here. There's absolutely nothing that's keeping me here. There's nothing that motivates me. There's nothing that's driving me. So it's like, and Joe Jackson is still in my head just saying, you are pitiful. You are worthless. You are not doing what you need to do. Why the fuck do you even try? And that's just, my mental state just kept doing that to me. And it's still something I'm trying to figure out now, to like how to like turn that shit off. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever, as you grow, you can't have that much Joe Jackson. And what if Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson, but still had Joe Jackson demanding more perfection out of one of the most talented artists to ever live?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was already crazy. What would that have done to him? You know what I'm saying? And that's just, and not the comparison to Michael Jackson or anything, but just to say, like, it's just something that I feel like if there are other people that like me, you just gotta have to like learn when that's enough Joe Jackson. That's enough berating yourself. Give yourself a break. But like you have accomplished things, and you have to take a moment to not only understand it, but live in it. You take a moment to give yourself some slack to like, yo, that you've been through some bull, but you have helped so many people. You continue to help so many people. There are people that love you, even though your mind tells you that they don't. There are people that care about you. There are people that would be affected by you if you're not, you weren't here and around. You have a support system that you have to use, and you just got to learn to use it. So I guess that's more or less to answer that question.
No, that's, man, I can relate to that. I had never felt like checking out.
You never have?
Never had felt until I went through what I went through 2-3 years ago. And when I lost my career and my church and everything, I pretty much lost most everything but my life.
Right. And
I didn't put a suicide plan together, but I felt a notch above that. Like, and I can relate to, like, I'd wake up in the morning, I didn't want to get, it's like, there's nothing that I'm looking forward to in this day, today or tomorrow or the next day, you know what I mean? And it was dark, really dark. So I was like, if one's suicidal, I was like a 2, you know what I mean? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10's everything's going great, and one's suicidal thoughts streaming, I was about a 2. And I'd never been that dark. I'd never felt that depressed. I'd never beat myself up like you're calling it a Joe Jackson voice, that inner critic and that shame and just hating myself and just the voice of just running myself down. I mean, it was intense.
Yeah, and it is. It's a weird feeling.
And I like what you said about how, we can start believing that voice 100%. And not hear anything else, right? And and you said you started had to remind, there are some people out here that still love me. There are some people. The hardest
thing that I deal with today is like it's like all my best friends. Well, I ain't gonna say all, but like a couple of them, I've come to them in dark moments, and they try to convince me, like, dude, you gotta relax. It's not like that. And it's just a thing, and it's just in my mind, like, you're full of shit. You don't care about me like that. You don't. And you start to like, there's nothing that anyone can do to change your mind on them. Like, and that's why I said, like, if I didn't have my son, I probably would have I'd have been at a 1 or a 0, because when I had him, I felt it was, something that loved me unconditionally, like truly and purely, like, and it has no reason to, other than I'm feeding it, take care of it. But as he's gotten older, like, it's the purest thing that, like, he's, I just feel that genuinely from him. And I'm like, okay, if that's genuine, what is all this other shit, Because if that's genuine, what is all this other shit? But you just really gotta that's my mind tries to figure out things logically, but that's not logical. That's your child. These are your friends. How they express and show their love is completely different, but it's just that inner monologue that you have, like, you're not my friend. You're here because I do stuff for you. You're here because when you're in trouble, I'm a shoulder to cry on. When you have problems, I'll never turn my back. And then even when you go through this and it's not intentional on their part, I want to make that very clear. Like, I've come to friends at times, and it's just you take things way too literal, personal, that you don't need to take. So when people come to me and they're dark time, and I'm there, I'm there to talk, I'm there to listen, no matter what I'm doing. But then when you turn around and turn to them and like, I'm busy, let me call you back, or I can come over later, but I can't listen to you now. I'm like, I need somebody now, and you start to take that like, okay, because why that is because I'm not as important to you as you are to me. And the love that I feel for you, how I would stop everything for you, you would not do that for me. So that's not love. That's just convenience. You love me when it's convenient. You care about me when it's convenient. And that's just my mind talking to me like that 24/7. That's how my mom would talk to me 24/7. I'm like, it's just something you got to get a hold of. They're like, you just feeding yourself lies. You're just feeding yourself a weird perspective that isn't true. Yeah. So
I hear you.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, I started going to a therapist, and I would just talk through that self-hatred and shame. And I had a few friends that really stuck with me. And I had some, honestly, my mom and dad are still around, and I have 3 sisters, and they all just really loved me through this. So that's a huge blessing. But so then I would just, when I would share with people what I'd done and what I'd gone through and how I felt like, I'd hurt or disappointed so many people and all that stuff. And then they would just love me anyway, And so that kind of the people who showed me love and grace at my worst moment, when I hated myself the most, it helped me start feeling like, wow, maybe God really does still love me, or maybe God can forgive me, or maybe, whatever. I mean, it started making that negative voice
just quiet,
less powerful. Yeah. Right. And less quiet. Quieted it down, but not less quiet. But
I tried. Different. When you also it's unfortunate because when you don't have that much money, that care is not just like free.
You're right.
So, and that's a unfortunate thing. When you're going through some crazy times, and people just say, "Oh, you need to talk to someone. You need to go see a therapist. You need to get some help." Like, bro, I don't know if I'm eating tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight.
Right.
I don't have a bed frame for this pissy mattress I'm laying on. I can't afford therapy. Yeah. And then you look to alternatives. Oh, they have the apps, and it's a lot cheaper to go into that. And when you finally, just in my sense, when you finally scrounge up money that you were going to use for something very important, and instead you use it to try to dive into some therapy, and it just doesn't feel. It feels like exactly what you're saying is being proven.
I hear you.
When you like saying, like, this person who is, I guess, supposed to help people like me, really only wants to know my credit card information so they can process my first month's payment and then get me up on a plan so I can actually keep coming to them, and they can get actually a grand total of $500 that I don't have. When you said it was $49 for me to give you a call, or the first setup was free and everything, and I could talk to this animatronic person but not a real person. It's not that easy. And when you have something validated like that nobody cares, it just reinforces that negative thinking. And it just, I've been
that's and I think, you think about mental health, and then not having any money for mental health. Yeah. Or not, if you don't have any money to access the types of mental health that cost money, where do you access that? And where did you find? Was it's a friend, right, who does show up?
For me, it's just.
It's your son who shows you unconditional love. That
I mean, I can't vent to my son. You know, he's 3.
Right.
You know, but he's just a tether that keeps you here while you're hopefully trying to find some assistance. But for me, it just came with little breakdowns. You know, it came from breaking down to like, and sometimes, and I hope people, you know, that's why I try to always be there to hopefully listen and hopefully can notice some signs when somebody's going through something. But you know. For me, it came from when I, you know, eventually get to a point where I'm trying to explain what's going on to me, and they hit me with the same thing, like, you know, like, yeah, that's crazy, but look, I'm gonna call you back, and it's like, no, don't call me back. Don't hang up this phone. Do not hang up on me right now when I need literally something. I need anything. I need you to literally convince me that when you hang up this phone, that I'm not back to being exactly what I feel like I am consistently, you know, and that's, and eventually, you know, I guess, you know, when you have enough courage to throw it out there like that, that's when people will start to listen a little bit more, even the ones that don't. Yeah. And hopefully when you do, there's somebody that actually listen.
Yeah. You know, I had been abusing alcohol and then I was on prescription Xanax. Yeah. And I was combining the two, which is a terrible combination. It led to a lot of bad decisions. And so when I was at my darkest moment, I actually, you know, went to an AA group, and it's free. And what's interesting is that I found that, like, some kind of support group that's free like that, where you can talk about, and the beautiful thing about that, and I'm not, you know, not everybody's going to do that, but I'm thinking that what I watched was that people would come in there, they would be at rock bottom, and of course their problem was alcohol, so not everybody's problem is alcohol, but they were at rock bottom. And then they could come into a group, and there'd be a group of people that would listen to them, be super honest, sometimes crying their eyes out, care for them, and then they'd be there again for them and again for them. They could always come in for free. Yeah. And they could always come in and talk. And those people are always reaching their hand out to that person. I think whether it's alcohol or whatever, it's kind of a beautiful model where when people give themselves to other people that way.
And it's not that hard to. It's not that hard to, you know, just be there. Yeah. You know, that's what it comes down to, is just being there. And I think what's even more important, what you just mentioned about, is being there consistently. You know, being there once off the time is just not enough. You know, that's almost like when your kid is trying to get your attention, daddy, 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 and then you finally just, what, you know. And then they show you whatever it is, and then it's just not important after that, you know. So the consistency of that is very important when you're being there for someone. You can't just be there when it's convenient. You can't just be there when you want. You know, you have to actually. It's a challenge, you know. But
yeah. So some of your new music is kind of reflecting some of the stuff that you've gone through, and try to put in a metaphor that you know, because that's my thing, I guess. You know what I'm saying? It's how I like to put out my art. I don't like to be so surface, but definitely, it reflects a lot of that. Well, good stuff, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to come and talk and share. What are the ways that people can connect with your stuff? And if there's some business leaders listening out there, they want to use your services, how do they connect with you?
For sure. You can, anything personal or music related, you can hit me up on any of the social platforms. They're all pretty much the same with slight differences. They're either going to be Melo Miles or Melo Miles KC on, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the same. And if you look for any type of work from our company, it would be Viewpoint Visuals KC on Instagram. It's probably going to be the best way to get a prompt response through us, or directly from our email, which is vpvbooking@gmail.com. It's V as in Victor, P as in Paul, V as in Victor again, booking@gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Check out Melo Miles. Check out his new music coming out. His YouTube channel is also Melo Miles.
Yep.
And good stuff. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Spirituality Adventures, and we'll see you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.